and welcome to an early fall edition of the North Dakota Softball All-Stars podcast. My name is Tim Howe, the president of the North Dakota Softball All-Stars and the host of the North Dakota Softball All-Stars podcast. Want to get right into it today. We're going to start by congratulating all of the summer softball state champions. I know we've done it out on the social media, but I want to give those teams their due. And then we're also going to talk to a state champion from this summer in Abby Kessel. She's an outstanding pitcher at Heart River, played with the Dickinson team this summer, as well as played a little other ball too, but won a state championship with Dickinson. So we'll get to that and we'll get to her in just a little bit. But first, let's kind of go to the scoreboard here. The state tournament out in Minot. And I got to give props to Minot. Now, I wasn't out there for the summer state tournament. I was out there for the Class A state high school softball tournament. I love the facility. I think it's well done. Parking is a little bit of a conundrum, but the facility is fantastic with the two turf fields, the batting cage, and then several other, grass, dirt, standard fields just down the way. And Minot puts on a good show. They're very good hosts. So to those who made the trek out there, I hope you had a fantastic time. And without further ado, let's get into the state champions, starting with 10UB. Jamestown, 10UB winners with a 3-1 win in the championship game over the Grand Forks Express. Now in 10UA, Dickinson Black took home the trophy, winning 14-8 over the Bismarck Sparks. It would be one of 3 state championships for Dickinson. We'll get to the others, of course, in a minute. Now to 12UB, the Minot Storm were victorious over the Bismarck Sparks, and that gives Minot the B12U championship. In 12UA, Dickinson Black, there we go, an 8-7 win over a Fargo Stingers team. Into the 14U bracket, the Minot Storm, 9-3 winners over Wahpeton in the state championship game, giving Minot their second of 2 state titles. In 14UA, a very good ND Elite team, 9-2 winners over River City Wolfpack. ND Elite would also go on to win the national championship. Now, nationals is, I should define what it is around here. It's more like a big regional tournament, right? So it's a northern national, teams from up north, but regardless of who's there were a lot of teams there, and regardless of where and how many, there were a lot of good teams, and ND Elite not only won state for 14UA, they also won nationals. Now to 16, a new team in 16UA, Diamond Academy, based out of the Fargo area, 11-2 winners over the Minot Storm, giving Diamond Academy their first state championship. So for 16U and 18U, they combine for the B tournament, okay? So it's 16-18U B, and Jamestown comes away 8-3 winners over a Cass Trailblazers team that had won 2, 3, 4. I don't know exactly what the number is. Corey Erickson, as he's listening here, will certainly be chiming in, telling me the number. But Cass Trail, a couple-time defending state champion here. But Jamestown, 8-3 winners. And then in the 18U, this is the one I was talking about, Abby Kessel, who we're going to bring onto the program in just a couple of minutes here. She was a part of the Dickinson team that won ultimately 9-2 over the FM Blaze in the championship game. They had to do the double dip, right? So they got to the championship game with a loss. The FM Blaze did not have a loss yet, and Dickinson was able to come away with a pair of victories, 9-2 in the final game for Dickinson to win the 18UA state championships. And, since we're talking about that 18UA state championship, let's bring on an 18UA state champion. She's an outstanding pitcher for Heart River. Wouldn't be surprised to see her as a North Dakota Softball All-Star, playing in the Shield Softball All-Star Series in 2020. It's already going to be 2020. Wow. Anyway, without further ado, she played on the Dickinson team. She won a state championship this summer. Her name is Abby Kessel. Abby, thanks for taking the time to join the program today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I want to start with the high school team and the thing you've been building with Heart River. Your team has had a couple of very, very good regular seasons in a row. Last year, I think you'd only lost one game heading into the state tournament. Probably not the finish that you had hoped for, but it's a program on the rise and just so much crazy growth. So I just want to give you a minute or two to talk about your program and what you've been building there at Heart River.
Yeah, we have a great group of girls down there, all very talented, and we just I don't know, state usually doesn't go as well as we think it would. So we just need to be more confident. But I think as the years gone by, we've had more experience at state. So we should kind of know better, and like we probably could use some like more competition teams and see if we can do good with that.
Yeah, and speaking of competition, one thing that, kind of finally really happened for the first time this year was a tournament or a crossover event where a whole bunch of Class B schools from both sides of the state got together in Castleton to play each other, and there was some really good competition and some really good games. I know a long trip for your team, but what did you guys take away from that? I think you suffered your only regular season loss there, but obviously played some really good opponents.
Yeah, that was really good for us. I think it's better to see some East Side teams that we don't usually see in the regular season, so we can we don't know what really to expect for them, so it's kind of like a free thing to like state, so we kind of know what's gonna happen and like see some different people that we haven't seen in like the regular season. Because we play like Velva. We played them 5 times during the season last year, so we kind of were really familiar with them, and it was good to see some different competition.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking here with Abby Kessel. She's senior pitcher at Heart River. And Abby, I know at least 2 years ago you pitched probably every inning of the season or very close to it. And I know you pitched a lot last year. You're one of the state's top pitchers regardless of class. What kind of stuff do you feature? How are you successful as a pitcher?
Well, I usually kind of like to work the corners more, throw some off speeds. I could do changeups, curveballs. Those usually work really well. I don't know. Matea calls the pitches for me, and she does a really good job at that. So I kind of just throw whatever she tells me to, and it seems to work pretty good.
Yeah, and the unique thing about softball compared to baseball, which is still the little bit more established sport around here, is that you can throw fast pitches so much more regularly. It's so much less stress on the arm. But still, when you throw 3 games in 3 days, or in a summer tournament, you throw a whole bunch of innings, it's a lot of work. What do you do to stay in shape and make sure that you're not wearing down as you keep pitching?
Well, usually we practice pitching about almost every day during school season, and then like during the summer I take a couple hours and just go work on it a few times a week, and that basically just helps me like get ready for the tournament. And
yeah, and to talk about summer ball, because I think summer softball is so interesting in the state, and you got a lot of travel teams. You don't have as many of what I would call the rec teams, where it's typically kids from the same school, just playing in a league or something like that. So Heart River doesn't have a summer team per se. So you've spent some time playing on a couple different travel teams. So give you a chance to talk about that and just maybe the difference in that, because you're typically just playing like weekend tournaments rather than practicing games every day.
Yeah. Well, for Dickinson, they have like practices like they've had every Tuesday through Thursday, I think. And yeah, they just go down there and then meet and then like do some practices there, and they got like a great like program established there, so they kind of know, they know what they're doing because their team's all together like throughout their school season too.
Right.
And then yeah, but like with like the Fargo Moorhead place, they have like it's like people from different schools like all the time, and you never really know who's gonna show up for tournaments, and it's a great way to meet a lot of new people, like, and then play with some that you have like Class A kids and like ones from other schools around the state. Like I've met a lot of people from Castleton and Valley City and Northern Cass and all around there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to piggyback a little bit on the Dickinson thing there. In the Class A high school season, West Fargo is and always has been the team. They've won every state championship but one. They're also historically pretty dominant in the summer, not quite to the same numbers. But this year, at the highest level, 18U, it was actually you and your Dickinson teammates that won the state championship. Kind of funny here because it was against the FM Blaze. But just totally different environment than the state softball tournament for high school, because that's 3 games, 3 days. You guys played 6 or 7 games. But just talk about the team and the rolling through the tournament and winning the state championship.
Yeah, Dickinson is very like, they know what they want, so they like just go get it right away. So they're always in like a game mode atmosphere, and they're like they obviously have a rival with West Fargo. I'm sure most Class A teams do. So they like really wanted to do good against them, and that just brought out like their bats, and they have really good defense over there, and just played their game.
And you talked about getting to play with kids that you either wouldn't play with in the spring or you might play against in the spring. What does that do then for when you're playing against them in April or May? Does that change that dynamic at all, or is it just the competitor in you? It doesn't even matter.
Oh, for sure. I love playing people that I know or I'm like friends with, because you get more competitive against them, and you always want to do better against them than they do against you. So it's always fun to do that.
We're talking here with Abby Kessel from Heart River, senior pitcher, one of the better pitchers in the state, regardless of class. And Abby, I know you've had some good pitching coach help along the way. You have a good coaching staff at Heart River. But I want to talk about you and your family. You're talking about travel ball. Okay, Dickinson, not so far, but to play for the FM Blaze, that's not like a 15-minute drive. So what kind of investment are your parents putting into you in those hours to make sure that you get great opportunities to play softball at a high level?
They're really like reassuring, and like, yeah, they're really supportive in that. So like I don't go to practices down there and stuff, but like I practice on my own or at my house, and my dad will help catch for me sometimes and give me tips on that. So yeah, he watches a lot of softball, so he kind of knows what he's talking about. So he really helps me a lot with that, and always come and support me in tournaments. And yeah, I went to quite a few this summer, so that was good to get that experience in.
Yeah, and now you're about ready to roll into a senior year of high school, and obviously the final sport of the high school season is always softball, being a spring sport. What are you expecting from you and your Heart River teammates this year? Do you have a state championship run in you?
Oh yeah, I hope so. I would just like, I expect them to like step it up. We need to like obviously work on some things, because like last year during state, base running got us quite a few times, and probably could work on some bunt coverages and stuff like that. So I feel like if we just get the little things right, we could definitely be a contender for a state title next year.
Is there a team or a visiting field that you just love playing against every year? I know you mentioned you played one team 5 times last year, so it can or doesn't have to be them, but do you like the stepped-up competition like Des Lacs or Castleton, or is there something crazy that you're like, I just love when we play at this place?
Oh yeah, we never actually played. Well, we played in Des Lacs. I think it was my 7th grade or 8th grade year, so we haven't played them in a couple years, and we never played Castleton, but I've always wanted to. But yeah, I don't know. I really like Gila and Turtle Lakes complexes. Those are really nice because they always have regionals and stuff there, and I got it good. I like up in Belva they have a really nice complex too.
Yeah, it's always cool to hear some perspective, because most of the people listening to the podcast are probably predominantly playing at the fields in their region or whatever. So it's cool to see where some of the kids like to play. So you're going into your senior year. You've had such a great high school softball career already, with another year in front of you. Do you have goals or aspirations of playing after your high school days?
Yeah, I would really like to play softball in college. So hopefully I can be able to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Just over the years, the number of North Dakota girls who are going to play any level of college softball, it seems like it's increasing every year. And I know we have our first Power 5 conference player, Jamie Barta from Bismarck, is going to go out and play at Syracuse. So just cool to see the constant development in softball in our state.
Yeah.
We are talking to Abby Kessel from Heart River. Abby, I just have one more question for you. Always the toughest one, but I always like to ask it. Do you have a favorite softball memory so far, whether it's a game or a tournament or something that happened off the field?
Ooh, that is a tough one. I think my favorite memory was probably our first game ever, and it was 30 below at least, with wind chill, was snowing. I was in Wilton, we were all like so nervous to go there, and I was just like so cold, and no, we got crushed by them. But it was really fun, like first game. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that, or probably making it to state, or is it 3 years ago? So yeah, that was really great too. Just like everyone was so excited and happy to be there.
Yeah, those are great memories. If you play softball in this part of the country, you're bound to play that game where it's basically winter, but you're still on the field playing, so that's perfect. Abby Kessel from Heart River, senior pitcher. Abby, thanks so much for taking some time to chat. I know the softball season is now quite a ways out, but we wish you and your Heart River teammates the best of luck this upcoming year.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Abby Kessel from Heart River played this summer with Dickinson on our North Dakota Softball All-Stars podcast today. Okay, a couple other housekeeping items to take care of here, and let's start in the category of coaching changes. Now, I will be upfront about this. I really only am going to know about it if you tell me about it, type of thing. But going back to last year, okay, let's go back 2 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 teams changed head coaches from the 2017 to the 2018 season. We go from 2018 to 2019, and that list is, boy, roughly double. To count them off quick: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17 or 18 coaching changes last year. Right now, I only know of a handful. I know Fargo Davies has hired a new head coach. Her name is Courtney Johnson. She has Fargo North and NDSU roots. Grand Forks Central hired Kyle Ellingson to be their new head coach. And I know of at least a couple openings. Fargo North still has a vacancy, as does West Hope, Newburgh, Bottineau, but that's just a handful, so it's good to see potentially still some time before next spring, of course, but potentially quite a bit less turnover in the coaching ranks from 2019 to 2020. Now, speaking of 2020, we've got a brand new tournament that's coming to town, something we're super excited about. We're going to have it in Fargo this year at the North Softball Complex. It's May 1st and 2nd, and now here's the thing about weekends in the spring. I know that some teams are going to be challenged to attend a tournament like this. Doesn't matter what weekend we put it in. We felt like May 1 and 2 was good. It's middle of the season in terms of, practice time sort of deal. And it's also a better chance of making it through any potential weather. So it is a good-to-go sanctioned tournament. All North Dakota high school varsity teams are eligible to play in it, and that's who we've invited. If you are a coach or an administrator or even a fan of a North Dakota high school softball team, you're invited. We can't wait to see it May 1st and 2nd. Now, we do have a handful of teams registered already. We'll just go through the list right now. Larimore from Class B East. Wilton Wing from Class B West. Pembina County North from Class B East. Bismarck High, Class A West. Mandan, Class A West. Williston, Class A West. And Turtle Mountain, Class A West. We've also got Mayport CG area, Class B East. And Thompson, Class B East, all signed up for the 2020 Mid-Season Madness Tournament, and I've talked to a whole bunch of other coaches and ADs. We're hoping to be in that neighborhood of like 16 to 24 teams for the first year. We're going to try to put together the best competitive groups we can in terms of teams you don't normally play against. Looking for some good games. It's going to be a really fun weekend at the North Softball Complex. Now, the registration deadline for the current pricing is December 31st. Of 2019. Now, if you're listening, you're interested in this, and you go, but state music is Saturday. We can do some stuff with this. We'll take teams Friday only and play a couple of games Friday. We'll do a Friday-Saturday thing, and maybe we can get teams out of there a little bit earlier in the day. We've also had teams that said, hey, we think this is a great opportunity. We'll come play with what we have. Good with whatever. We'll have predetermined pairings, so you know your game times and matchups in advance. We're going to do our very best to schedule no conference matchups. Of course, that depends a little bit on who signs up, but we can play double headers. We can do all sorts of stuff. So something we're really looking forward to, the 2020 Mid-Season Match Tournament. Now, you might ask, what about the 2020 Shields Softball All-Star Series? I can tell you this. For the next podcast, we'll have plenty more details for you. Speaking of podcasts, that's it for this one. Another edition of the North Dakota Softball All-Stars podcast in the books. A huge thank you to Abby Kessel. Heart River senior to be, or she is a senior now, his class is in session. Great interview as part of this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. As always, you can find us online, ndsballstars.com, and you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just look for NDSB All-Stars. Thanks a lot for listening. Have a great one.